Welcome back. It's A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Final segment of this Thursday edition of the show coming up here just a moment. Reminder to make sure you check out all the shows that we have here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. It's A to Z. It's Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, ATL Day Ones, Jarvis Davis, and Tanisha Batiste. Our Braves postcast with Grant McCauley. As you know, we just spoke with him. And don't forget about Locked On Hawks with Brad Rowland and Locked On Falcons with Aaron Freeman. The entire Locked On Network here. Just a great bunch of people. So happy that you guys are part of this venture with us. And please continue to spread the word and make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us all on the social media accounts and continue to download the pods every single day. Remember to search Locked On Sports Atlanta. All right. Let's get to the Atlanta Hawks here for a minute because the offseason is started for teams who are one and done in the playoffs, and they are already evaluating what they need to do for next year in order to get better. And David Aldridge, who writes for The Athletic, who's covered the NBA for, most of my adult life at this point, the better part of 2.5 decades, and knows this league as good as anybody, wrote his piece on what all the teams who have been eliminated already from the playoffs should do to get better next year. And he just kind of, details first round loss to Miami 4-1, the key free agents that they have, which are DeLon Wright, Lou Williams, Gorgie Dang, and Timothy Caber, whatever, and Kevin Knox. No key injuries, draft status. They own their first and their second round picks. Cap exemptions are the taxpayer mid-level exemption, which is approximately $6.3 million in the first year. 99 problems. What are their problems? Well, it's really only one problem, that they were horrendous on defense. 26th in the league, 24th in opponents' effective field goal percentage, and 27th in opponents' turnover percentage. Just, it was bad. They were not a very good team. Now, they were not a very good team defensively. Now, one thing I said that was abundantly clear throughout the Miami series is whatever you do, you just can't run this thing back the way it currently is. There have got to be changes made because objectively, this team, even at their very best, is still the sixth best team in the East. Right? They're not as good as Milwaukee, not as good as Boston, not as good as a healthy Philadelphia, not as good as Miami. You could argue again, they're not as good as Brooklyn or they're not as good as Toronto, one or the other. But they're probably at least sixth. I don't think they're fifth. I don't think they're better than both Toronto and Brooklyn as currently constructed. So you run it back, you're not going to see any change because you're not good enough to get to the Eastern Conference Finals again. That's just being objective. I mean, you can throw it out. Oh, we made it where it was. Why? Objectively, those teams are better than you. It's not impossible. But, the Milwaukee Bucks enter every year knowing they're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's just the way it's the way things go. When Golden State is healthy, they enter every year expecting to be in the Western Conference Finals. You're not that team yet. And so David Aldridge writes, Trae Young's extension is kicking in. Atlanta's top 6 salaried players next season, Trae Young, John Collins, Danilo Gallinari, Clint Capella, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Kevin Huerter will make a combined $126 million next year. And he writes, it's hard to see significant internal improvement going forward from the current nucleus, which is hella expensive. That's problematic. That is definitively problematic. What's more problematic, and really this is the indictment that I talked about a moment ago, and it's troublesome. It says what to fix. And he says, one league source mentioned the Dorian Finney-Smiths of the world, asked the kind of player who could help the Hawks stabilize themselves defensively, put another body on the Tatums of the world or the Lukas of the world. But this is what he writes, and I'll read it verbatim. But Atlanta needs an attitude adjustment more than a personnel one. Less than 2 weeks into the season, Hawks people were quite concerned about the vibe their young players were giving off. They felt that they'd arrived after making the Eastern Conference Finals last season. Again, it starts with Young, who said the regular season was, quote, a lot more boring than the playoffs. Maybe so, but elite teams use the regular season to create and fine-tune the habits that make them successful in the postseason. If Trae Young is going to be the leader, and Trae Young wants to be the star, and Trae Young wants all the things that come along with being a star, that attitude has to change. LeBron James never has that attitude. He knows the regular season is boring, but he uses every single game as a tune-up as David Aldridge said, for what's going to happen in the postseason. You don't have the best player in the world on your team like the Milwaukee Bucks do, where you could just give one dude the ball and be fine. It's not how it works for this team. They're not that good. And if your leader is staying unfocused for 5 months of the regular season, that's a problem. And it needs to be addressed. If you're telling me an attitude adjustment would change this, I'd like to see it. I'd be willing to see it because, you know, I don't know if it's purely about talent. I think the Hawks are an extremely talented team. They need to get better defensively. They need to try a little bit more on the defensive end. But still, this is a team that defensively just needs to try more, but offensively has tons of talent. And there's no reason to believe that they can't play to a better level than what they did. I just don't like that statement there about Trae Young. I don't like that level of leadership. You don't have enough talent to win with that mentality. And you haven't done it as often as the other guys have. You know what? LeBron can afford to say the regular season is boring. He's got a lot of rings. 4 of them. Been to 10 finals. Giannis has won a championship. Steph, those guys have won championships. Kevin Durant has won a title. They can afford, they have the luxury with a title in their back pocket to take a couple of regular season games off and not really give a rip and be bored because they've gotten to the top of the mountain. They know how to do it. You don't. You don't get that luxury. You don't get the ability to just take the regular season off when you haven't won it all. You want to go win it all? You can tell everybody how boring the regular season is, and we have to trust you. But until that happens, that attitude adjustment is a massive thing that needs to be fixed. And maybe, just maybe, they needed to get their butts kicked in this first round to lose that attitude that they have, quote, arrived. Nah. You beat up on a Knicks team that wasn't very good and took advantage of a flawed 76ers team. A very flawed 76ers team. With a player now that's going to end up sitting out almost 3 full seasons when it's all said and done, Ben Simmons. So before you start crowning yourself, look in the mirror and realize what got you to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. You played well and you earned it, but you didn't beat the very best to get there. You didn't go through a Miami this year and a Milwaukee this year to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. You went through the Knicks, for crying out loud. Pump the brakes. Settle. All right, that'll do it for us here on this Thursday on A to Z. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for making A to Z your first listen every day. Make your next listen Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, the ATL Sports Talker, giving you all the strongest opinions and takes on everything Atlanta sports. And we appreciate you guys tuning into both shows as well. We're free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Back tomorrow, wrapping things up with a big week here on a Friday. You guys have a great day. Don't take any crap from anybody. See ya.